Episode 1. The moment I first saw him, I became a woman again. I am 60. A lifetime lived only as a wife, a mother, a madam. Someone once asked me, "These days, what brings you the most joy?" And I could not say a word. People say I've lived quite a fine life. A husband who is a university professor, 2 children studying abroad, an apartment in Gangnam, and a foreign car. On the surface, nothing to criticize. But no one knew, for over 30 years, how much I had given up being a woman. That day was nothing special. I went out for my morning exercise. Because of menopause, I sweat a lot these days. So I had joined a quiet health club a friend recommended. While running on the treadmill, someone passed by me. That man. His build was extraordinary. Tall, broad-shouldered, and beneath his tight workout clothes, an overwhelming silhouette. For a moment, I thought I might stop breathing. After finishing, I looked in the mirror of the locker room, a headband covering my white hair, faint wrinkles at the eyes, sloped shoulders, and yet, strangely, I felt good. That long-forgotten feeling of sensing someone as a man seemed to awaken my body again. A few days later, I saw him again in the lounge. His name was Jun Seo, 46 years old, a full-time trainer at the club, 14 years younger than me. He spoke first. "Is your back a little uncomfortable? Your posture looks slightly so." I stared at him, surprised. He smiled and added, "Sorry, I just tend to notice things." This man, he had wit, and above all, he never avoided my eyes. After that day, I strangely found myself standing in front of the mirror every morning, checking my figure, choosing perfume, arriving earlier than usual at the club to match his schedule. One rainy day, he silently offered me his umbrella. We walked together across the small parking lot without a word. When his arm brushed my shoulder beneath that umbrella, I realized something, that I still longed for someone, that I was still alive. In that moment, I was no longer a madam, no longer a wife, no longer a mother, just a woman. After that day, I thought of him constantly. His hands, his breath, the way his eyes held mine. A desire I thought I'd never feel again in this life. Quietly, but unmistakably, began to bloom. Episode 2. Do you have time tonight? Love sometimes arrives without warning, and it begins with just a single simple question. That day I was sweating more than usual. On the treadmill, wiping my brow, I was waiting for him again, for no reason, or perhaps for too many reasons. Junseo arrived later than usual. His gray t-shirt was damp with sweat, and every time his arm muscles moved, my breath caught. Then, quietly, he came beside me. "Do you have time tonight?" That one short sentence. I nodded blankly, unable to form a word. In that instant, my heart raced as if I were 20. No 18 again. About to burst, he took me to a quiet pasta place. Dim lights, soft music, a place he often visited, with an air of intimacy. We ordered wine. At first, we spoke of weather, of exercise, careful fragments of daily life. But with one glass, then another, the distance between us slowly melted. Junseo said softly, "From the first time I saw you, I was curious why you looked so sad." I couldn't answer. Inside me, something was pressing hard against my throat, threatening to break. He gently covered my hand with his. I was startled, but I didn't pull away. After dinner, he drove me home. At the corner of my street, he turned off the engine and simply looked at me. The silence was brief, but his eyes lingered long, as if waiting for permission, yet promising restraint. Eyes filled with controlled desire. I lowered my gaze, opened the door, and stepped out. He said nothing. He only rolled down the window and spoke one line, "You'll come tomorrow, won't you?" With my back turned, I nodded just slightly. To this day, I don't know what shook inside me that night. Was it love or loneliness? But one thing I know for certain, from that day on, I became a woman who waited for someone. Episode 3. Your hair looks beautiful when it's wet. Excitement knows no age. In fact, the longer it's buried, the more fiercely it rises. That morning, as always, I went to the club at 10, yet yesterday's dinner with him lingered endlessly in my mind. I spent longer than usual before the mirror, fixing myself. I thought perhaps this feeling was an illusion, but after my workout, I showered, with my hair loosely towel dried. I stepped out of the locker room, and there he was. Unlike usual, he had taken off his top, wiping sweat from his bare arms, muscles glistening. My gaze slipped toward him before I could stop it. He smiled quietly, watching me. Then, looking at my damp hair, he murmured in a low voice, "Your hair looks beautiful when it's wet." At those words, it was as if electricity coursed through my body. Of all the compliments I'd heard in my life, never had my heart responded like this. My hand clenched the towel. To be called beautiful. I hadn't realized how dangerous those words could be. From then on, the health club was no longer just a place to exercise. It was where I could hear his breathing, feel the air that brushed past his arms and shoulders, immerse myself in his presence. We didn't openly draw close, but I felt it all. When he was near, my heart doubled its pace. When his eyes lingered, my breath caught still. Days later, he spoke carefully. "This weekend, would you come to my studio when no one else is around?" The club's quiet afternoon hours. The word studio carried a meaning beyond exercise. I hesitated, but eventually nodded. We hadn't done anything yet, but already in my heart, so much had happened. Every word of his, every look, the warmth of his fingertips. They stripped away the shell of madam and returned to me. The senses of a woman. Episode 4. Are you okay? At those words, I closed my eyes. Sometimes, the body reacts first. The mind hesitates. But the body already knows that it has already visited that person. In the heart, Saturday, 3 p.m. The club was quiet, the studio empty. After class, he carefully led me to the annex studio, a private space. Just that phrase left me breathless. The studio was filled with warm sunlight, rays through the curtains, music flowing across the wooden floor, and the two of us alone. He laid down a yoga mat without a word. I sat upon it silently. No words were needed. We already knew each other too well. While stretching, I suddenly winced, my back strained. I let out a small sound. He came closer, gently holding my arm. His hand was warm, strong. A damp palm, rough fingers, his wrist firm around mine. In that instant, the world went still. He looked into my eyes and asked softly, "Are you okay?" I didn't answer. I only closed my eyes because I could say nothing more. In that moment, I reclaimed my body, long forgotten. My chest pounded. My fingers tingled. His warmth rising to my knees. This was not exercise, not mere kindness. It was a gaze that said, "I want you." For 30 years I endured, within rigid molds, my husband's habits, my children's needs, the title of madam. Never once had I let myself free. But now, before him, I was a woman. When he placed his arm around me, straightening my back, I breathed again. For the first time in so long, no explanation was needed. He leaned to my ear and whispered, "Right now, are you okay?" I closed my eyes and very faintly nodded. That day, nothing truly happened. Only fingertips touched. Only breaths mingled. Only eyes lingered. And yet, that night, I could not sleep a moment because my body already wanted him before my heart dared to admit it. Episode 5. I wish that night would never end. I once thought love belonged only to the young, but I was wrong. When you've lived through everything, laid everything down, that is when real love comes. That evening, he said to me, "Shall we have dinner together?" It was a short invitation, but I knew this was not simply dinner. Scene 1, his home. His place was a small studio near the gym, clean, fragrant, and above all, a space that felt as warm as his heart. On the table, an omelet he had made himself, a bottle of wine, and a neatly set place already waiting for me. We drank in silence. Nothing special was said. The weather, exercise, music, but his gaze, his breath, spoke everything. As the glasses emptied, my heartbeat quickened. When his hand brushed mine, my breath stopped, and I did not pull away. He said softly, "If you feel uncomfortable, you can leave now." But I did not leave. Instead, slowly, I took his hand. Wordlessly, we walked to his bedroom. No sounds were made. But in that room, our breaths burned hot. That night was quiet yet fierce, silent yet deep. For the first time, I laid bare the woman in me. He kissed my wrinkled shoulder, and with trembling hands, I touched his chest. That night, I felt alive again. The next morning, I rose quietly, dressed, and looked at him still in bed, whispering in my heart, "Thank you, Junseo, for letting me breathe again." He opened his eyes, looked at me, and said, "I wished this night would never end. People will say, at your age, what folly. But now I know. Age, reputation, they were prisons. I built myself. I don't know where this love will lead. But one thing is certain. Since that night, I have been breathing again. As a woman, love is not over yet. And if your life still holds emotions waiting to bloom,